Hello, Leonardo Cornejo here, and I wanted to talk today about something that I have been reflecting about. Every now and then we find this sort of study saying, well, there is evidence that video games don't cause violence, that video games don't cause sexism, that anime and manga and comics don't cause crime in general, that lolicon doesn't cause sex offenses of any kind, that this or that work of fiction doesn't cause harm. But there are two kinds of fiction, which I want to talk about in here, that they do seem to cause some harm, to the distort the perception of reality in people who are watching them. And there are not enough studies, and there is not enough research, and that's why I want to make this video. Before I begin explaining it, I want to make it clear: none of these works, none of these genres, none of this kind of fiction should be censored. What we need is awareness campaigns to make sure people understand it's not real, not realistic even, and a research to find out why it seems it's causing a distortion in the perception of reality in people who watch them. The first one, and I will it's faster this way, so I will explain. The first one is reality shows. There is evidence that they do cause a distorted view of reality. That people who watch reality shows, they start to see the world differently. They assume the events in the show are real, and most of these shows are advertised as real. I mean, this like Pawn Stars was it, and this other one about a repo officers. I don't know, I don't remember the name, but it was about repossession agents. Uh, I know many people who are firmly convinced the events shown in those shows, Pawn Stars and this other one about repo men, that they are real events. That this guy really got threatened with a gun for repossessing a car, that all that shit really happened that way. The shows themselves are produced as staged, based on anecdotes and real events, but they are extremely dramatized. And for example, let's say you have this sequence with the guy. I don't know. Let's say a hypothetical reality show about repo men based on the one that is real. I don't remember the name, so I will make this a hypothetical one. I don't know. Let's call it Repo Man for short. And there is this guy, and it's like, oh, we have this repossession order. And they show up, and it's like, give me the keys. I need to take the car. And this like big buff guy, and the other is one, I'm not giving you anything, and he jumps on the guy and starts punching him, and then the other guy throws him away, takes the keys, gets on the car, starts driving, floors it, and the other guy takes a gun and starts firing. And that's the sequence you see in the reality show, and it's like, fuck, he got shot at. And the real event, the anecdote which they base the events on is, give me the keys. I don't want to. Make me. Give me the fucking keys now. Make me. He bitch slaps the guy. Did you just bitch slap me? Punches the guy, breaks his nose. Give me the fucking keys now. Okay, here, take the keys. Takes the keys, starts driving, leaves, and the other guy flips the bird. Motherfucker! My car! He didn't shoot. He didn't fire at any time. He didn't even had a gun. He flipped the bird. He just flipped the bird and starts yelling at him. But they make this story even more dramatic, and he fires at the guy and he leaves with the car. And now it was basically woo memes and middle finger. Yeah, you got the reference, right? Well, that's it. There was no gun. And actually, if I remember well, I think it was one of these reality shows. They come and try to repossess a car, and they find a clandestine Chinese cuisine restaurant, and it's like all this crazy stuff, and there are dogs hanging everywhere, like dead, dead, cooked or some marinated. I don't know. Dogs hanging everywhere, and they're like, oh no, that one was World's Worst Tenants. I remember it. And there is this Chinese woman yelling, and this embarrassed Chinese man, and I don't believe it was real. There was this other one about a guy with a power generator in his bedroom, and they cut the power, and he starts yelling because his clan depended on him in a video game, and he doesn't even mention the video game, so it was like a generic video game 2.0. And my mother and I were laughing at that one. I mean, I don't know gamers who are like that, but I'm not buying the part of the generator and nobody knowing, and there is his reaction like, my clan. That was totally fake, and my mother and I were laughing at it, but she did buy it. She did believe it was real. I'm like, nah, that doesn't happen. It isn't that way. We don't start yelling like that, and we don't start like, oh, my clan. We will be like, fucking shit, you interrupted my game. Get the fuck out of here. And we will start crying and yelling and making all a big deal. We'll be like, oh, fucking shit. Please give me the power back. I was playing with some people online, because they're reacting that way, like a fucking squealer. It's not realistic, especially if you are really like a pro gamer or something like that. This feeling of frustration. You don't just start yelling and crying like a kid. You're like, fuck. That's the reaction. I actually focused on a memory of a blackout to make it. I was playing Warframe, and suddenly there is a blackout, and there goes the mission. I'm like, fuck! But we don't start crying and trying to punch the other guy or anything like that. We are like, fucking shit. And just sit there, lights out, your computer is off, and like, fucking shit. You don't start yelling or things like that. It was not real, it was dramatized. But people do believe it is real. My father is convinced all these reality shows are real, and my mother is like on the fence. Most people are convinced they are real. Normies. I'm not talking about you who are smart and you're like, oh, I'm so smart. Like, how could someone be that stupid? Normies are that stupid, and they are not really stupid. They are normies. They are average. They are ignorant, misinformed, unexperienced, probably old, probably used to believe in news, like in CNN and shit like that, which is fake too, which is not real. It is often distorted and dramatized for the sake of the narrative. But I mean, they are used to believe in what TV tells them is real, because that's how they live. And some of them are not that old, some of them are even younger than you. Certainly younger than me. I am not that young. But they do believe in all this shit because they don't know better. They are mostly ignorant. They are not really that stupid. They are not that smart. They are not smart enough to, how to say, to suspect it is fake without evidence, without concrete proof that it is fake. And they are extremely ignorant. I myself, when I was younger, I was like, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. I was like my mother, now on the fence. But then I was like, no, this is totally fake. This feels totally fake. Let's investigate. And yep, confirmed, it's fake. It says here, dramatized, fake. I knew it. But most people don't get past the maybe. Thanks to my age and my paranoia, I was like, maybe it's fake, let's see. It feels fake, let's investigate. Most people don't get to that phase. Most people, even if they say it's fake, they don't get to the phase of, let's confirm if it's fake. Yeah, it says there that it's dramatized. They are just like, it's fake. And there are people, normal intelligence level people, who actually believe WWE is real. So imagine these shows which advertise themselves as real events. They create a distorted view on them. That's the first part. The second part is, and the reason of this title I will put on the video, the threat of realism. Realistic TV shows, live action TV shows, live action movies, live action entertainment, which is depicted as realistic or based in real events. You know, shows like Friends, The End of the Fucking World, Law and Order of SVU, Dawson's Creek, Degrassi, let's see another one, Saved by the Bell, even Baywatch, even though people are well aware women are not on average that attractive. Baywatch. Mm, did I mention CSI? Well, I think I did. Doctor House, Grey's Anatomy, all these shows. I think in English is House MD. I don't know how it is called in English, but I'm more like I forgot because it has been years since the show ended. They are not real. They are not realistic. But they are how do I say it? They are not real and they are realistic enough to not require suspension of disbelief. And this is where I think the danger comes in. They are not realistic. If you are well informed, you realize that's stupid, that's fake, that's not how it works. No trial works like in CSI or Law and Order or Law and Order SVU. If you behave like that in a trial, odds are you will get in trouble. If you start yelling like that in a trial, no matter who you are, be it the accused, a witness, etc., you are going to get in trouble. No trial is like that in real life, or at least no normal trial. If a trial gets to that point, it gets into the news. And my father was even convinced trials in Mexico were like that. When trials in Mexico don't even work in the same way as in America. So imagine how distorted his view of reality was. For him to believe trials in Mexico worked like in Law and Order SVU, even though they don't even work like that in America. Or, for example, another situation. Toxic relationships like those in teenage dramas, which are a factor here, they don't end well. And in fact, teenage dramas are proven to be harmful. According to this researcher, developmental psychologist. Oh fuck, I forgot to mention this in the Spanish version. I made a Spanish version of this same video for another channel and I forgot this important, really important element. There is this developmental psychologist called Robert Epstein who has studied how teenagers think and work, and he basically proves there is no such thing as the teenage brain, and all that stuff is basically, well, misconceptions. And he mentioned there was evidence that teenagers suffered many of these teenage related problems because of school and teenage oriented media, specifically teenage dramas, school dramas, bullying, toxic relationships, harmful relationships, high risk behavior are both connected to these teenage dramas and to school environments. Specifically, he says school environments where teenagers are restricted in their freedoms and and their interaction is limited to people only in their age group. So basically, only hanging with their age group. Those three things, according to his research, lead to harmful behavior and harmful experiences in teenagers. Particularly, teenage-oriented media was one he noticed quite a lot of difference, because he noticed in countries, mostly in Southeast Asia, he used it as the sample, countries where there was no such media, teenage life was better. And once these teenage dramas entered those countries, the teenagers there started to experience the same problems they didn't experience, which were problems American teenagers do experience. And in fact, I'm Mexican. This is important because most of the situations, most of all these problems American teenagers experience nowadays, they were absent until they were absent in even my school life until these teenage dramas entered. For example, there was bullying in Mexico, but it was not as common or as violent in most schools as it was in those shows, and it got worse. It got. Let me put it this way: there was bullying. There were a few cases of bullying every now and then. Some of them were downright criminal. That's true, but they were not as bad, not as common in most schools as they were after that. If a school had a severe bullying case, it was not a daily thing. It was not normal until these teenage dramas arrived. And there was not that much, how do I say it? Interpersonal drama in schools. There were no cliques, there were no. Mm, uh, Things were better. Let me put it this way. Teenage life and school life in particular was a lot better in Mexico before American teenage dramas arrived. And my grandparents say it, and my parents say it, and I noticed it. And there is evidence, and there is video evidence, even. It matches what Robert Epstein describes. Before these teenage dramas arrive, life is better. And soap operas are part of the problem too. In fact, I noticed a period, and I actually persuaded my mother back then. I was very young, but I managed to persuade her of it. I noticed a period in which my home life in general was a lot more hostile. Both my father and my mother were a lot more hostile with each other and with my sister and I because of soap operas, where there was violence, where the spouses treated each other violently. I persuaded my mother of stopping watching it, and the situation changed a lot. Things got better because she was no longer watching these shows, and that's the scary part. That's the part. There is not enough studies of it. These shows with low suspension of disbelief, little to no suspension of disbelief, which portray real life or portray realistic things, which they don't have magic. I mean, you are not going to imitate Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Battlestar Galactica. I'm not talking about all those live action shows with high suspension of disbelief, but these ones which have little to no suspension of disbelief, they are fucking dangerous. They influence us. They do influence us. They do shape how we see it, how we see the world, unless we make the conscious effort of not getting influenced by them. And that's how you get people who are functionally this character in this film called Cable Guy, with Jim Carrey. And he portrays this character who is completely insane because he built all his reality around TV. And I think people in real life are becoming like that. I think boomers in particular are like that. They base all their reality on what they see on TV. And it is not just boomers. I'm saying boomers are the first example of a generation who is all like that. But I think Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, Gen Alpha even are like that. And the only thing that changed is their their media. Instead of television, now it's TikTok. Now it's Instagram. They are shown a reality that is not there and that is distorted, and they believe it. Another example, the so-called CSI effect. You do your research, please. Let me skip it. It's too long and too boring to explain it all. But basically, people have a distorted view of how criminal cases are because of CSI. And it's real. And it is a proven situation, the CSI effect. Look it up. People are developing a distorted view of reality because of these shows. Because of these live action shows with little to no suspension of disbelief, these realistic shows. And that's why the title of this video is The Threat of Realism. Because realism is dangerous. Realism, it creates distorted views of reality. I'm not saying it should be censored. I'm saying we need more studies on it. And we need to prepare ourselves mentally when consuming these shows. We need to make the conscious effort of not becoming basically puppets manipulated by fiction. We need to separate reality of fiction. And this is important, in fact, for fiction. This is why people believe all this bullshit about, for example, about gamers, about gaming, about Gamergate, because they watch these shows. There was this episode, Intimidation Game, in Law and Order SVU, which perpetuated all the lies mainstream media made about gaming, about gamers in general. And there was another episode, I don't remember the title, but which showed a very unrealistic portrayal of a fictional, how do I say it, of a big fictional video game, which was like a fictionalized Second Life. But it was very unrealistic, very impossible. It had things that Second Life doesn't have, like a real simulation of Earth, with even the sun position being the same as on real life. That shit is unrealistic, but people who are ignorant on the matter do believe it, because there is a low suspension of disbelief. It is unrealistic when you know what's going on, when you are a gamer, when you are inside, when you are aware of the truth. But to someone who is utterly ignorant of the matter, they do buy this shit. They do believe this shit. And that's the scary part. I'm not talking about horror movies. I'm not talking about science fiction movies. I'm talking about these works of realistic fiction. How do I say it? I don't. I'm I'm not that versed. I studied literature, but I really dodge most of the realistic part. I focused plenty most of my study on fantasy literature, which is what I write actually, on science fiction. I actually managed to, how do I say it, evade the boring parts by inserting my interests into my school projects, into my college projects. For example, I wrote a whole article on Andrzej Sapkowski, the author of The Witcher, for one class. I actually wrote an article. I don't know. I even had it in a blog, but I don't know what happened to it. I hope I still have it. But it was an article analyzing all the Lovecraftian elements in the Zendikar expansions of Magic the Gathering, back when Magic was good. Back when there was this Rise of the Eldrazi and all that stuff. I basically inserted my hobbies in my research projects. I actually made a research project on Roald Dahl's work, particularly focused on Matilda. I focused most of my projects in fantasy, in fiction, in science fiction. I didn't work much on nonfiction, and I don't even like nonfiction, to be honest, in terms of literature. I don't read the memoirs, I don't read autobiographies. I fucking hate them. I actually find it bothersome to see the memoirs of some fucking celebrity, or of some fucking nobody in general. I don't care about the life of these people. I'm like, yeah. So your memoirs of what happened during 2020. I literally met some self-published people who were planning on writing their memoirs of what happened in 2020, in 2019 with the whole pandemic thing. I'm like, I don't fucking care about what you did during those years. You're fucking irrelevant. I don't like memoirs. I don't like autobiographies. I don't like them about celebrities. I don't like them about average people. I don't fucking care about your life. It sounds horrible, but to be honest, I don't really care because I am too busy for that, and because I don't care about their, to be honest, narcissistic, self-absorbed literature. I do care about certain events, but I don't care about the memoirs of some nobody or of celebrity, even worse. I actually think the person who is not that relevant is even preferable over a celebrity. I don't like celebrities. The thing is, I don't touch nonfiction and I don't touch realism that much, so I don't know how to describe these shows. But I think you get the idea of what kind of show I'm talking about. I'm talking about shows that are like somewhat realistic. I think they are dangerous. I think they give distorted views of reality, and I do think we are seeing the effects already. I think some people watched Friends and shaped their social interaction on what they saw on Friends, and they are horrible people, and they are unbearable because of that. I do think people base their behavior, their expectations of reality, their expectations of society on what they see on these shows, on these dramas, on these soap operas, because they are ignorant. They don't know better. Another example, again, Law and Order SVU is one I particularly detest, and my mother actually grew to hate it too because she saw the lies and she found them bothersome, especially because she didn't like to see gamers slandered. Because, well, I'm a gamer. And she was like, "Oh, I get it now. You hate it because it shows lies, and there is the proof. And yeah, I understand why you hate it, and now I hate it too." Intimidation Game was the specific episode that made her hate the show. I hated it already by the time it came out, but it was the specific episode that made my mother hate it. My father still bought all that shit. He was still convinced that trials were like that. He's ironically, despite having a master's degree in biochemistry, he's a fucking idiot. He's a communist. Think about it. The thing is, my mother and I did notice that there were plenty of lies, and I noticed them before. And for example, there was this episode which I found extremely bothersome because of all the lies. You have this guy, this bald guy, Stabler, I think his name is, interrogating a witness in a way that was totally illegal because it is considered witness intimidation, by the way. It is illegal. That behavior is illegal. And he's like trying to intimidate him and telling him that he's going to jail because he's a pedophile, because he had sex with a 17-year-old. And it was not like rape, sex with a 17-year-old. And he's like, and you know what they do pedophiles in jail, so you better confess and all that shit. And I'm like, and there is even a meme about that. I think it's because of that part. There is this meme. She was 17 years, 23 hours and 2 seconds old. You pedophile. I think that's how the meme is. But basically, seconds before becoming 18. But there is really a meme mocking Stabler because of that. Because that's exactly the problem. And he says the guy is going to jail because she was 17. And the age of consent in New York, look it up, and it might be outdated. I don't keep them up to date, but the last time I checked, the age of consent in New York is 17. And this is important because I am saying the show is false. The show is showing a falsehood, which people do believe. The age of consent is 17. The clinical definition of pedophilia is sexual attraction to prepubescents. The diagnosis criteria often focuses, there might be exception, but the diagnosed must be above the age of 16, and the diagnosis is if this person above the age of 16 is sexually attracted to someone, a real person. This worth mentioning because there will be a fucking idiot, oh, you're a lolicon and you're a pedophile. No, that's another distortion of reality shown made by these shows. But no, a real person. If this person, age 16, is sexually attracted to real persons, ages 13 or younger, there might be exceptions. Biology isn't all the same on everyone. Some people develop faster, but it is like the template, like the diagnosis template. You might have an exception. For example, in my country, the age of consent for a long time was 12, so they just use so their criteria was prepubescent, Doesn't matter the age because the age is is an obstacle for diagnosis. So prepubescent. Sexual attraction to prepubescents in America usually diagnosed under 13, 13 or younger. So basically, if someone is sexually attracted, no matter your age, you could be 60 years old. If you are attracted to a 17-year-old female, you are not a pedophile. By definition, clinical definition, you are not a pedophile. And the age of consent in New York is 17. Therefore, the show was showing something unrealistic. It is realistic. It has low suspension of disbelief, but if a guy the age 20 something, like the guy in the show, sleeps with a 17-year-old, it's not illegal. He's not a pedophile by definition, by clinical definition, and it's not a crime in New York. The age of consent is 17. Is she consented? It's legal unless it is rape, and it was not rape in this specific episode. I don't remember the name of the episode, but I swear there is a meme mocking it. There is a meme mocking that situation because basically, poof, overnight she's 17, goes to sleep. The next day she's 18, so she's legal, and therefore he's not a criminal. He's not a pedophile. That's stupid. I mean, seriously, that's stupid. The law is a separate thing, don't break the law. But if she's 17 and she's legal in New York, then why is the show saying he's a criminal and a pedophile and a child molester? Because the people in the show want to depict a narrative which is made in their minds. And some people actually believe the world is like that. My father actually believes the world is like that, like the narrative of this fictional show. And there is evidence, as I said, the Csi Effect, that these shows make people see things in a distorted way, that they distort their view of reality. They are specifically live action, realistic shows, low in suspension of disbelief, and movies too. In fact, for example, the case of this guy, John Hinckley Jr., who tried to kill Ronald Reagan. Yes, that Ronald Reagan. He was motivated by a movie, a live action movie set in a realistic setting. The combination of live action with a low in suspension of disbelief setting is what causes this, in my theory, but nobody has studied that. I firmly believe that's the cause. The cause is people see this thing with real people in what looks like real life and they have a distorted view. Another example, and this one is more general because most people believe it. Mm, let me look the word, the correct word in English, because I don't want to be inaccurate at all, especially when I'm talking about this. I mean, if I'm talking about unrealistic things, about the distortion of reality, let's talk about sound suppressors. It's important to bring it up. Most people don't know how they work. They are literally convinced by all these action films that they really make the guns sound like silent. That they are really silencers. They are not silencers. At least, well, I might be outdated, but in most cases they are not silencers. They don't. How do I say? I don't know. Maybe they are more advanced now, but the last time I checked, last time I researched, they do make a lot of report, and that's the important part. Maybe I am outdated, and nowadays there are actually silencers which might, I don't know, which might actually cancel the report, but at least until 10 years ago, which is the last time I actually researched on it, noise suppressors don't cancel the report entirely. The gun still makes a noise. The gun makes a noise which doesn't sound like a gun, but it is actually quite loud. In many works of fiction, it's like the guy has a silencer, fires the gun, no sound, or a whistling, really light sound which goes inadverted by people around him. That's not how they work. That's not real. That's fiction. But people do think noise suppressors actually nullify the report. That's another example. I don't know if newer models. I mean, as I said, 10 years ago I researched on it. I don't know. Maybe modern noise suppressors actually silence the report. But last time I checked, they don't, and that's how do I say it? That's the problem. People are actually convinced they do cancel a report, and that's why they are like, "Oh, a silencer." No, it's a noise suppressor, and that has given people a distorted view of gun safety because they are like, how do I say it? They are actually made to reduce the report because the noise of the gun actually hurts the ears. I mean, if you fire a gun, there is a reason why shooting ranges actually put these earmuffs to protect your ears. Because if you fire a gun, the thing is loud and it might hurt your ears. They are not for stealth. That's important. That's my argument. They are not for stealth, or at least not the way in which is shown in films. As I said, you fire and it's like beep. Yeah, let me try. It's a whistling sound. I don't know how to make it like beep. That's the sound they claim these things make. No, it's quite loud anyway. In fact, they are loud enough to alert someone. If you are like trying to pull this like stealth agent and you fire and you have a silencer, they will still make enough report to make someone say like, "What was that?" They won't say, "Oh, it's a gun." It doesn't sound like a gun anymore, unless they are quite used to noise suppressors, and they will be like, "Oh, someone is firing with a fucking suppressor." But the idea is reducing the noise to reduce the harm to the ears, and when it comes to stealth, to make the gun sound like something that isn't a gun. In fact, I saw this like weird noise suppressor which had a horn in it, like a honking horn, and so they were like, I don't know if it is effective. It won't be stealthy. I was like, no. And I explained to someone. They were like, oh yeah, he knows, because I said no. The thing is, it's not stealthy at all. But people won't think someone fired a gun when the noise they hear is a honk. When they hear the honk, they will think of anything but a gun. So it does reduce the chance of getting caught because someone will hear a honk and they won't say, "Oh, someone fired a gun." So they will be like, "Oh, someone honk." There's a honk. It's Clone World, of course. There's a honk. They once suspected it was a gun, and there were like some people who said, "Oh, you do know about guns?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of researched it for fun." It was before I started writing. Actually, I did research it for fun because I don't like guns. I haven't fired one because, well, in Mexico it's nearly impossible. But I do like guns, so I try to learn a bit about it. But some people do believe this bullshit. Or, for example, there are really these spy films and all those things that show this nonsense, and it is not real. But people do believe it because the suspension of this belief is low, because most people don't even know how these things work. But they are quite loud. At least, unless I am, how do I say it? Unless I am outdated, noise suppressors are loud. They are not silencers. And that's another example of what I am talking about. People develop these distorted views from fiction, which is depicted realistically enough for them to not separate reality from fiction at a subconscious level. Only when you are really focused on separating reality from fiction, which is something I developed a habit from in childhood. Because there were these PSAs of Power Rangers showing, telling you, and I saw them in Mexico. I don't know who produced them, but they actually show you the backstage of these old Power Rangers shows. It was in the 90s. They show you the backstage. They used to show you how the actors choreograph and all that stuff, and they tell you you must learn. You are young. You must learn to separate reality from fantasy, reality from fiction. Reality is this, and they show the guys on backstage and doing these choreographies and training and all that. And fantasy is this, and they show you the action sequence, and they show it several times. They reinforce the idea, and I think that was great for Mexican children in the 90s. We had this thing reinforcing the idea of separating reality from fantasy. I watched them at a very young age, and that probably saved a few lives because I think I'm smart enough to not have fallen into that path, but I have heard of children who actually simulating fiction kill themselves. So it probably saved a few lives, and I think people need to make that conscious effort of, no, this isn't real. This is a television. This is fiction. That's not how the world works. And I actually, whenever I see something in fiction that leaves me with doubt, which leaves me questioning, which leaves me wondering, I conduct research. And in fact, if you say, oh, how do you know all these things about ages of consent? Exactly because I saw this myth, and it's a myth nowadays, this rumor about the age of consent in Japan being 13, because, well, I have mentioned it before in my video about Lolly. I like Lolly, and there were these forums, all these places in which they were like, oh, but Lolly is because in Japan the age of consent is 13. Was, let me correct that, was a long time ago. The thing is, that led me to actually research on the matter. Is it really 13? And that led me down a rabbit hole which changed my mind entirely. I think you should all do that research. Find out what the age of consent is in your area. Find out what the legal age has been in your area. What is real and what is fiction. What is true and what is fake. Do it yourself. Do your own research. Investigate yourself. Well, that led me to actually question many of these notions, and that's why I was like, hold on a second. Why do you call a guy who had sex with a legal girl a pedophile? Just because she's 17? But she's legal in New York. Mr. Stabler, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know. You're a police officer and you don't know the law of the city you are working at. That's why I noticed it was fake. That's why I noticed it was fictional because, well, not fictional, but because I already knew it was fictional. That's when I noticed it was not based on reality. It was not just fictional, but inaccurate. If you want an accurate portrayal of how police works in New York, Law and Order is not a source of reference. But most people actually act as if it was. Most people actually believe all these lies. They are like, oh, the age of consent in all the world is 18. Who told you that? Who told you that it is not? But because TV told them. For example, many people think the drinking age in America is 18 because they see it in movies, they see it in TV. Oh, I'm turning 18, so I'm going to drink until I pass out! No, it's actually 20 something. You are either stupid, ignorant, or outdated. I don't even know which is it because I don't know when it changed, but it isn't 20 something. Is it 23? Let me check. Legal drinking age in the United States. Let's see. United States, countries Algeria, Gambia, drinking age, and Algeria has no legal in drinking age, but you can purchase under 18. So get your body by the. So if you're in Algeria, get your friend who is 2 years older buy you those beers, and there is no problem, bro. America, United States. Let's see. Let's see. In Mexico, let's see in Mexico because I don't remember what was in Mexico, but it will be funny. 18 drinking, 18 buying. Now, that's weird. I mean, yes, I know it is. I checked. But that's weird because I still remember there was a time when it was the legal drinking age was not 18. There was none. It was buying age. Varies between state the age, United States, yes, varies between a state, but is the buying age 21. So no, if you are 18, you can go to a nightclub and buy alcohol. Now this is, let's see, national minimum required in all the states. The minimum for purchase is 21. I will check. I will check. I will check because I want to know when it became a 21. But the thing is, you see it on TV. Oh, I'm going to get wasted. I'm 18. Wait. How are you going to buy alcohol in that nightclub at 18 if the legal purchase age is 21? See what I'm saying? These works of fiction distort your view of reality, and I don't know people who think it. I know people who don't know, who think all the legal ages for driving, because that one is reinforced over and over in their heads. As for driving, all legal ages are 18, and no, that's not how it is, not even in America. It's not even the central focus. I just got chaos and sidetrack a bit. I tend to do that. I tend to get distracted easily. But the thing is, all these works of fiction, which have a low suspension of disbelief, ranging from something like, let's say, CSI, Grey's Anatomy, which are a bit higher on suspension of the disbelief, from there to reality shows. I think there is an unrecorded, unresearched, not studied or poorly studied, barely observed risk of them distorting your view of reality. I think they are dangerous. I am not saying they should be censored. I'm saying we need research on the matter, and if found to be dangerous, we need to reinforce in the audience the notion this is not real. Do not let it shape your world view. Most of these shows actually, except for reality shows, most of these shows actually come with disclaimers saying all events depicted here are fictional, blah 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 blah. But people don't have it really in their mind. And most people don't think much of it. Most people actually buy the lies. That's what I'm talking about. They are dangerous. People don't even pay attention to it. I wanted to make this video as a writer because it adds to my perspective. Anecdotes, research, and my own writing skills tell me there is a danger in this. It's a combination of ignorance and lies, which are capable of doing this. I do believe people have actually bad love relationships because they base their expectations of love not on Disney movies, as they say. Oh, because girls expect this prince in shining armor. That would be a lot better than what they are actually basing their love expectations upon. Oh, but boys expect this damsel in distress because they played Super Mario. Trust me, we don't. And it would be better if we did, compared to what most men expect. Because these teenage dramas, I don't. I don't have these expectations because I actually base my expectations on anime and manga and not even on realistic expectations, but rather I want someone loyal who loves me. I don't have that many expectations. Someone loyal who loves me. Is that much to ask? I don't think so. Um, but people actually do have some weird expectations when they watch teenage dramas. Like I want, how do they say it? A virgin who acts like a slut in the case of men, and in the case of women, the bad boy. They want these people who are not healthy, functional, or realistic. Because a virgin who acts like a slut doesn't exist. And the bad boy is not bad because he's cool, he's an asshole. And I'm not saying it like this kind of beta male resentful idiot who is like, oh, they only good for bad boys. No, I'm saying there is a difference between a tough guy, between a manly man, between a masculine man, and these bad boys, these fuck boys, these whatever you call them boys, these boys who are not men, who are fucking idiots. I'm saying, if you think that cheating guy will become a nice guy the moment he starts dating you, because you saw it on this teenage drama, bad news are that won't happen. If you think this girl, who is all shy and cute and nice, will suddenly start riding your cock 24/7 because you saw it in a teenage drama, no, probably you will scare her. You are a fucking creep. You have that expectation of her, and I'm not saying you shouldn't expect sex from her because it's natural, and if she loves you, she will have sex with you. But if you expect her to suddenly become this sex demon upon starting to date you, you will scare the fuck out of her because you're a fucking creep. But teenage dramas do show these unrealistic relationships, and people do expect it. And I know because some of my friends actually got in really toxic relationships because of them. Because I do know a guy who was disappointed in his love relationships because he had these expectations of women built around teenage dramas which were not real. And I met many girls, some of them friends, who had really horrible relationships with really nasty men. Not men, brats. They were bratty pseudo males. Most of them actually, feminist allies and things like that. Or these really nasty boys, these really nasty kids, these really nasty man children. And they had relationships with them because they had this idealized vision of the troublemaker, of the bad boy. These guys, these emo kids who try to pass for tough guys, acting all edgy and brooding, and they are just fucking idiots. And as someone in my audience will be like, "Oh, but I'm an emo." Well, you are one of the exceptions then. If you are watching my channel, you are a good person probably because I don't hang with idiots. But you are an exception to the rule, man. Most emo kids are basically assholes. Most of them are woke, so they are assholes anyway. The thing is, I have seen it over and over again. These people who build their love relationship expectation, their interpersonal expectations, in general, not just in love, in friendship, as I said, upon friends, and they treated their friends like shit. Because people in friends, they are assholes. I don't know why the show is titled Friends. Everyone is a jerk to each other. They build their social expectations on these live action dramas, on these live action sitcoms, and they socialize the wrong way, in an unhealthy manner. And in fact, I think actually PC culture and all this woke stuff might be the byproduct of that too. So maybe we need to start checking out. Maybe we need to start thinking. Instead of attacking these unrealistic worlds of fiction, these spaceships, aliens, robots, wizards, these secret agents with barcodes in their back who are totally unrealistic and are actually too pixelated to look real. These big eyed girls who might look small and cute and funny, but they are not real and they don't even look like a real human. Instead of thinking they are harmful when there is plenty of evidence that they are not, maybe we should start checking out all these realistic works of fiction and wondering if they are not harmful. Because nobody has stopped to say, wait, maybe this is wrong. And actually, the people who have stopped to say it, like Robert Epstein, actually have said, this is fucking wrong, and here's the evidence. I strongly recommend you to read. And there will be some idiot who will say, "Oh, Epstein, Jewish name, Epstein, the name of the guy who didn't kill himself." Yeah, totally unrelated. And actually, Robert Epstein made a joke about that. He talked about the risks of Google manipulating information. Let's bring that up too. This doctor actually warned about the risk of Google manipulating information and how wrong it was. And he actually said the whole thing about reinforcing the elections was wrong. And that's when he made a joke. He went in front of a bunch of people saying Google shouldn't tamper with elections in general. And he introduced himself. I'm Dr. Robert Epstein, not related. He made the joke, so don't even say, oh, but he has the same surname as this criminal. Yeah, and I happen to have the surname of a criminal too. No, seriously. There was this criminal. Many people have actually the surname of a criminal, and that doesn't make them the criminal, unless you have the surname Stalin, because apparently that surname was like made up or something. And actually, people who had the surname Hitler actually changed their name to not be associated with the with the how do I say it, with this dictator. But there are plenty of people with the surname Castro, and they are not related to Fidel Castro. Okay, there are many people with the surname Epstein who are not related to Jeffrey Epstein, and one of them is this doctor. But I say it because I had actually an interaction with a fucking idiot, and I will say it, a fucking idiot, who I told him, dude, Robert Epstein says the teenage brain is false, and he's like, oh, he has this. He's a Jew, so everything he says is wrong, and he also has the surname of this pedophile. And I'm like, fucking idiot, fucking idiot. At least check the research. So don't do that. Check the research. There is proof that this. And actually, he's warning about something you should care about. Even though this guy is quite a left leaning, he did warn about something you should care about if you are on the other side of the culture war, because all this wokeness is reinforced by these shows. And he warned about it, about how teenage dramas reinforce negative behavior in teenagers. So think about it. Most of this wokeness might be just TV brainwashing. Think about it. Actually, I had this character who is a homage to him and Jordan Peterson. One of the characters in my novels actually is a homage to them, because his name is Robert Peterson. Takes first name of one psychologist who helped me, and the last name of another psychologist who helped me, because Robert Epstein actually had some like material which helps you overcome certain flaws, lacks of maturity, which are a byproduct of an extended childhood, of this unnaturally extended childhood we call adolescence. It helped me a lot, and Peterson helped me a lot in many other things. So I actually value their opinion a lot more than that of many other people. And Robert Epstein warns against these live action shows. So yeah, there is a risk in realism. There is a threat in realism, and people don't even notice it. People don't even notice realism can distort your view of reality. Realistic fiction, hyper-realistic fiction, can actually distort your views of reality. Be careful. Don't let it take over your mind. Don't let it brainwash you. That's it for today. Have a nice day. Still on Flame, Book 1 of the Guilds of Avlaan series is available on Amazon. If you like fluffy wolf-lolly protagonists and Japanese light novels, follow the link below to check it out.